No pigeons around, I hope. Now, about those policies, Mr. Dietrichson.
Television's most beloved fathers weren't always who they seemed. Behind the family dinners and fatherly advice, some of Hollywood's most famous TV dads carried secrets that would have ended their careers instantly. These men married, raised children on screen, and smiled through decades of whispers, blackmail threats, and studio pressure. Today, we're revealing 15 classic TV patriarchs whose private truths were anything but sitcom perfect.
You see, Professor Warren, I hate loose ends.
1. Robert Reed, Mike Brady, defined the ideal American father for an entire generation. But Robert Reed's reality couldn't have been more different. Reed despised the show's lightweight scripts, constantly battling creator Sherwood Schwartz over storylines he found insulting to his theatrical training. What nobody mentioned on set was that Reed was living with a male partner throughout the show's entire run. He married briefly in the 1950s and had a daughter, but that relationship ended quietly. By the Brady years, Reed was fully immersed in Los Angeles' underground scene, frequenting bars and clubs where he could actually be himself. His co-stars suspected, but the code of silence held firm. Florence Henderson later confirmed she knew, calling him a tortured soul who channeled his frustration into perfectionism on set. Reed's anger at those saccharine scripts wasn't just artistic ego. It was a man suffocating under the weight of playing perfect, while his real life stayed locked away. When he died from colon cancer complications in 1992, his death certificate listed HIV as a contributing factor, a revelation that shocked fans who still saw him as America's squeaky clean dad.
I'll just keep this until we finish the investigation.
2. Paul Lynn, sharp-tongued, campy, and hilariously mean. Paul Lynn became a household name through Hollywood squares, but his own sitcom as a suburban father lasted just one season. The Paul Lynn Show cast him as a lawyer and family man, a role so laughably miscast that even network executives seemed confused. Lynn's flamboyant delivery and raised eyebrows made every line sound like innuendo, which audiences loved on game shows but found awkward in a family setting. Behind the scenes, Lynn lived openly among friends, throwing legendary parties at his Beverly Hills home filled with young men and endless cocktails. His humor masked deep loneliness and self-loathing, fueled by an industry that celebrated his queerness as comedy but refused to let him be honest. Colleagues recall him as bitter and often drunk, lashing out at producers who kept him in the closet while profiting from his obviously coded persona. A tragic incident in 1965, when a young man fell from his hotel room window, haunted Lynn for years and added to his paranoia about exposure. He died alone in 1982 from a heart attack, his brilliance forever tied to the sadness of living as a punchline.
Okay. Now, what was it you asked me?
3. Dick Sargent. Dick Sargent stepped into one of television's most iconic roles when he replaced Dick York as Darren Stevens on Bewitched. But the wholesome husband image couldn't have been further from his reality. Sargent spent decades terrified of rumors, turning down social invitations and avoiding any situation that might expose him. His management advised complete invisibility outside of work, and Sargent complied, building a career on playing straight while living in constant fear. After Bewitched ended, his roles dried up and the isolation deepened. It wasn't until 1991, nearly 60 years old and watching friends die from complications related to a certain health crisis, that Sargent publicly came out on Entertainment Tonight. The announcement shocked Hollywood, not because people didn't suspect, but because nobody from his generation ever actually said it. Sargent spent his remaining years advocating fiercely, appearing at rallies and fundraisers, making up for lost time. Elizabeth Montgomery, his Bewitched co-star, supported him publicly and became one of his closest allies. When he died in 1994 from prostate cancer, Mao activists praised him as a pioneer who chose honesty over Hollywood's script.
Murder is usually very simple.
4. Raymond Burr. Raymond Burr built an empire playing authority figures, first as Perry Mason, then as wheelchair-bound detective Robert Ironside. His commanding presence and deep voice made him America's most trusted television lawman. What audiences didn't know was that Burr had fabricated an entire backstory, complete with a dead wife and child killed in a plane crash, none of which ever happened. Biographers later discovered the whole tragic narrative was invented to explain why he never dated publicly. In reality, Burr shared his life with actor Robert Benavides for over 3 decades, building a successful orchid business and traveling the world together. Studio publicists crafted the cover story, and Burr sold it with conviction, even producing fake photos. His Ironside character, a tough detective dealing with disability, gave Burr another layer of armor, another reason to keep people at emotional distance. Co-stars described him as generous, but intensely private, someone who controlled every interview and personal question with lawyerly precision. When he died in 1993, Benavides was identified only as his business partner in most obituaries, the final insult to a relationship that lasted longer than most Hollywood marriages.
You talk.
You know, I thought once before.
5. Will Geer. Grandpa Walton represented American wholesomeness, the wise elder guiding his mountain family through Depression-era struggles. Will Geer brought warmth and authenticity to the role, drawing on his own Appalachian roots. What the Waltons' audience didn't know was that Geer had been blacklisted in the 1950s for refusing to cooperate with the House Un-American Activities Committee. His political activism extended to his personal life, where he'd had a relationship with Harry Hay, founder of the Mattachine Society, one of America's first organized movements for equality. Geer married actress Herta Ware and had 3 children, but the marriage was unconventional, both partners maintaining other relationships. After the blacklist destroyed his film career, Geer founded an outdoor theater in Los Angeles, creating a space for artists shut out by Hollywood's paranoia. The Waltons revived his career when he was nearly 70, giving him financial security and renewed fame. He remained politically active until his death in 1978, leaving behind a legacy that combined artistry, activism, and quiet defiance of the very system that employed him.
Wouldn't it be ironic if our friend Mr. Madison came slithering?
6. Tony Randall. Felix Unger's prissy perfectionism made Tony Randall a comedy legend, but the actor's own life defied simple categorization. Married to Florence Gibbs for over 50 years until her death, Randall then shocked everyone by marrying Heather Harlan, a woman 50 years his junior, at age 75. They had 2 children before his death. This late-life family didn't stop decades of speculation about his sexuality, fueled by his refined mannerisms and opera obsession. Randall never addressed the rumors, focusing instead on his craft and his beloved National Actors Theater. Jack Klugman, his Odd Couple co-star, defended him repeatedly, calling the gossip cruel and baseless. Yet industry insiders whispered about Randall's friendships with certain Broadway figures and his careful avoidance of questions about his personal life before Florence. Whether the speculation had any basis or was just Hollywood stereotyping remains unclear. What's certain is that Randall lived his life according to his own rules, refusing to engage with gossip while building a career on exquisite comic timing and theatrical excellence.
Condemn the man. I mean, he did no good, nothing for me.
7. Tom Bosley. Howard Cunningham embodied the wise, patient father figure of 1950s nostalgia, guiding Richie and the Fonz through wholesome adventures. Tom Bosley brought gentle authority to the role, becoming America's favorite suburban dad. His personal life stayed remarkably private throughout his career, with 2 marriages and 1 daughter from his first wife. Rumors occasionally surfaced about Bosley's orientation, particularly regarding his close friendships within the theater community, but nothing ever gained traction. Unlike some co-stars, Bosley maintained such tight control over his image that even posthumous biographies reveal little scandal. Some colleagues hinted at a more complex private life, suggesting his marriages served professional purposes, but concrete evidence never emerged. Bosley seemed content with ambiguity, never addressing speculation while continuing to work steadily until his death in 2010. His Happy Days character became so iconic that it's nearly impossible to separate Tom Bosley, the man, from Howard Cunningham, the character, which may have been exactly his strategy.
Here are some scenes from our next adventure.
8. Sebastian Cabot. The British actor's deep voice and imposing frame made him perfect as Mr. French, the proper butler, raising 3 orphaned children. Sebastian Cabot brought Shakespearean gravitas to the sitcom, elevating what could have been a silly premise. Throughout his career, Cabot never married and rarely discussed his personal life, leading to persistent questions from journalists. He deflected with charm and British reserve, redirecting conversations to his work or his passion for gourmet cooking. Within Hollywood circles, it was quietly understood that Cabot lived with male companions, though specifics remained vague. His weight, often exceeding 300 pounds, became another shield, with Cabot joking that food was his only vice. The actor moved between London and Los Angeles, maintaining homes in both cities and a transatlantic lifestyle that made relationship tracking difficult for gossip columnists. When he died, suddenly of a stroke in 1977, obituaries focused on his distinguished career, while revealing almost nothing about his private world.
You know why you couldn't figure this one, Keys?
9. Fred MacMurray. Steve Douglas became television's model widower, raising 3 boys with steady wisdom and gentle discipline. Fred MacMurray's wholesome image was carefully cultivated, supported by his long marriage to actress Lillian Lamont and later June Haver. MacMurray was one of Hollywood's shrewdest businessmen, negotiating contracts that made him television's highest-paid actor while working minimal hours. His personal life stayed scandal-free throughout decades in the spotlight, remarkable for that era. However, some Hollywood historians point to MacMurray's early career choices and certain relationships as potentially more complex than his public image suggested. Billy Wilder, who directed him in Double Indemnity and The Apartment, hinted in interviews that MacMurray possessed darkness beneath the pleasant surface. Whether this referred to hidden aspects of his orientation or simply his ability to play against type remains debated. MacMurray took his secrets, whatever they were, to his grave in 1991.
Yes, dear. Besides, that'll take the curse off my being a low one.
10. Robert Young Jim Anderson represented the ideal patriarch of 1950s suburbia, solving family problems with patience and wisdom. Robert Young perfected the role, winning multiple awards while becoming synonymous with fatherly guidance. His real life was considerably darker, marked by severe depression and alcoholism that led to multiple hospitalizations. Young attempted to take his own life at least once, a fact carefully hidden by studio publicists. Whether his struggles related to hidden aspects of his identity or simply the pressure of maintaining perfection remains unclear. Some biographers suggest Young's relationships with certain male colleagues went beyond friendship, but evidence stays circumstantial. What's documented is his dependence on substances and his need for psychiatric treatment, both carefully managed to protect his wholesome image. Young's later career included coffee commercials that capitalized on his trustworthy persona, making him a pitchman for domestic tranquility he never actually achieved.
Get me a chair.
11. Lorne Green. Ben Cartwright ruled the Ponderosa with fairness and strength, becoming one of television's most iconic patriarchs. Lorne Green brought Shakespearean training to the Western, elevating Bonanza beyond simple cowboy fare. McGreen married twice and had 2 children, maintaining a respectable public image throughout his career. However, within the industry, whispers circulated about Green's relationships with younger men, particularly during his theater days in Canada. Nothing concrete ever surfaced, and Green's carefully managed image as a family man held firm. His deep voice and commanding presence made him perfect for authority roles, including later work as Commander Adama in Battlestar Galactica. Green controlled his narrative tightly, rarely giving personal interviews and keeping his private life separate from his public persona. When he died in 1987, obituaries celebrated his career while revealing little about the man behind the characters.
Hi, I'm Carl Betts. I played a doctor and a lawyer.
12. Carl Betts. Dr. Alex Stone represented professional success and domestic stability, and the perfect complement to Donna Reed's idealized homemaker. Carl Betts played the role with warmth and humor, winning an Emmy for his performance. His personal life stayed remarkably quiet, with one long marriage and 2 children. Unlike some contemporaries, Betts faced minimal speculation about his orientation, perhaps because his role was less prominent than Reed's. However, some industry insiders later suggested Betts's private friendships and social circle included relationships never discussed publicly. His post-Donna Reed show career included the lead in Judd for the Defense, where he played a sophisticated lawyer, again projecting authority and respectability. Betts died relatively young in 1978 from lung cancer, leaving behind little documentation of his personal life beyond professional accomplishments.
You didn't hurt anything but her pride. Why'd you have to turn out?
Shisan. Hugh Beaumont, Ward Cleaver, epitomized paternal wisdom, navigating suburban life with cardigan-clad calm. Hugh Beaumont brought Methodist minister training to the role, having actually been ordained before turning to acting. His religious background made him seem the least likely candidate for Hidden Secrets, yet some researchers have questioned aspects of his personal life. Beaumont married twice and had 3 children, maintaining a conventional family structure. However, certain biographical gaps and unexplained career choices have led some to wonder if his life was more complex than it appeared. Beaumont retired from acting after Leave It to Beaver, becoming increasingly reclusive until his death in 1982. His intensely private nature meant few knew much about his life outside his iconic role.
I'm life-sized. I'm no giant, no matter how big you once thought I was.
Chassis. The Lloyd Bridges. While best known for underwater adventures, Lloyd Bridges also played father figures in various projects, including his own family sitcom attempts. Bridges maintained a long marriage to Dorothy Simpson, and their sons Beau and Jeff became successful actors themselves. The family's public image was strong and united, with no significant scandals. However, some Hollywood historians have noted Bridges' close relationships with certain male colleagues and his theatrical intensity that occasionally raised questions. These remain purely speculative, with no concrete evidence supporting alternative narratives. Bridges worked consistently until his death in 1998, his reputation intact and his family legacy secure.
Dishwasher. In this house, I'm the dishwasher because I'm cheap.
15. William Frolley. Before becoming Bub O'Casey on My 3 Sons, William Frolley immortalized Fred Mertz on I Love Lucy. His gruff charm and comedic timing made him a television staple, but his personal life was marked by bitterness and loneliness. Frolley's marriage to vaudeville performer Edna Louise Brote ended badly after 6 years, and he never remarried. Known for heavy drinking and cantankerous behavior on set, Frolley alienated many colleagues. Some whispered about his relationships with younger men, particularly during his vaudeville days, but nothing was ever confirmed. Frolley's later years were spent alone, estranged from former friends, and increasingly difficult to work with. He died in 1966 after collapsing on a Hollywood street, having spent his final years living in a modest apartment, far from the fame his characters achieved. These 15 TV dads shaped how America viewed fatherhood, masculinity, and family values, all while hiding truths that would have destroyed their careers. Some lived in quiet dignity, others in torment, but all survived an industry that demanded perfection while denying humanity. Which of these stories shocked you most? Did studios have the right to enforce such secrecy, or were these men victims of their time? Drop your thoughts below, because this conversation is far from over. And here's the real question. How many more classic TV stars are we still not talking about?